Hey guys, welcome back to New World Carpentry Solutions. In this video, I get to use a planer sled that I built a while back. This is a pretty simple design. It's also a little small. I do plan to build one that actually fits into my dog holes to make this a little bit more repeatable and a lot easier to set up. But in this case, I'm actually using my T-slot bit or my T-track bit because it's actually wider than the standard straight bit that I currently have. But the cutters on the bottom of it work just as well as the surfacing bit. So as long as I take my passes pretty much at half the diameter of the bit, I'm able to get a nice and clean cut that is smooth as well. And then all I have to do is come back with the sander. Pretty much the only thing I have to do is actually set the depth of the bit to where it's just barely past the top of the material or wherever the low point is if the material itself is rocking. And also, since I flattened out my workbench, I know that the reference surface that the jig itself is referencing off of is nice and flat. So once I have that done, you guys will see once I flip it over on the table that the cutting board is actually sitting perfectly flat. There's no longer a rock to it, and then I can repeat the process, and you also get parallel sides because again, it's all referencing off of my workbench that again I've taken the time to make sure it's nice and flat. And with the jig itself also referencing the workbench, the router's referencing the workbench, and everything again is running nice and parallel. So all I have to do is take a shallow pass at wherever the lowest point is and pretty much work my way all the way across the piece to get a nice and flat referenceable surface. Then all I have to do is come back with some sandpaper on my sander and kind of smooth everything out, kind of take any of the grooves or lines that was left behind from the router, and then rinse and repeat until I have all the cutting boards perfectly flattened and ready to go. This process is not too bad. Again, I do plan to make a larger planer sled that actually works with my dog holes. That way it can be one, easier to set up, and two, larger. So whenever I do like a slab work or maybe a tabletop, I'm able to do it all in the same setup. I kind of want to make it adjustable. I have a few ideas kind of running through my head. I just haven't went through the process of actually building and setting up the jig. I thought about it for this one, but I was happy and lucky enough that this jig that I built back in the day for I think my first end grain cutting boards just happened to be wide enough to also fit these ones in there as well. And that's the only thing I'm pretty much doing throughout this process is actually keeping the jig references tight up against one side of the cutting board. Since I know the jig is sitting there square, I know the router's going to be running square along the edge of the cutting board. And then again, just take subsequent passes all the way across the board until we get a nice and even surface. You guys saw how when I pulled the jig back, pretty much everything that I hadn't cut and everything that I did cut, pretty much it gives me, again, a flat surface to work from that I can easily smooth out with a sander. This process definitely is dusty though. I gotta get a dust collection set up for this. But this process gives me the result that I need. But if you guys have enjoyed, let me know down in the comments. Leave me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.